Just to show how well we work in partnership, we're all going to speak to you today. So I'm Amanda Coulthard. I manage the performance and strategy team for the council, and within that remit I have responsibility for the community planning partnership, so I'm going to set a bit of the community planning scene and some of the strategic framework for what we've been doing. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, a bit of background to our approach in terms of alignment with spatial and community planning, the rationale for integrating, what progress we've made in the work that we've been doing, a bit of an overview of where we're at and where we're heading, how we think we're going to measure whether it's working or not, and some of the painful lessons that we've learned as we've tried to align. So I guess in the same way as North Ayrshire have already outlined, timing wise, a really great time to be thinking about alignment. We had the legislation through community empowerment, we had the requirement for the new local outcome improvement plans, and the early conversations around about what the planning bill was going to look like and how planning was changing. So a great opportunity to think about how we did things a bit differently. Our local outcome improvement plan in Western Dunbartonshire is called the Plan for Place, a real recognition that everything we do is about the neighbourhoods that people live in. So already setting that commitment from all of the partners that place is central to all of the outcomes that we're looking to improve. For probably the last 5 years, we've had an approach in the area called Your Community, which is about getting better at how services work together to respond to the needs of our residents, but also working in collaboration with our residents to look at how we improve outcomes in the area. So again, a model data framework that people were familiar with that was about working collaboratively in the neighbourhoods that people live within. We were one of the 4 areas that worked with What Works Scotland to look at new ways of working, and one of the things that we worked on with the team at What Works was our approach to community-led action planning. So how do we go out and work in a meaningful way with interested residents to plan for the area that they live in, supporting them to be aspirational but also managing expectations about what's possible. I think as we've worked through some of this, we've recognised that many of our residents think that anything is possible when you're planning with public services. We are getting into a position now where people recognise that resources are limited and that it's about the best possible approach for all areas, recognising different needs in different areas. But initially it was about everybody wanting everything at the end of their street, on their doorstep, something they could access. And there's been a huge amount of work on just managing those expectations, building capacity, and working with our really active citizens to help them get more familiar with some of the language and the planning tools that we use so that they can cascade that message further in the local population. On the far side of the screen is the graphic that we use for everything we do for the partnership. So our community planning partnership 5 priorities, which are about flourishing, independent, nurtured, empowered and safe, the things that all of our residents want to be and all of our community planning partners want to deliver. And then the 3 and 2 layers that sit below that are about how the council in particular can deliver on that, so the outcomes for people that we think will make a difference in those 5 areas, and then the process issues that we think the organisation needs to get better at in order to make outcomes significantly improve for our population. So in terms of why should we integrate and what was the rationale for the project that we took forward in Western Dunbartonshire, I guess we already had a clear focus on place. We had the plan for places, our local outcome improvement plan, and a growing recognition across the services in the council, our elected members and our partners, that needs vary across the populations, and there was a real need to think about Western Dunbartonshire as a whole, but all of the different communities that make up the area and how we can respond to that. We were very clear we wanted to be far more person-centric in how we planned our services and how we thought about outcomes, but also recognising that planning at a community planning level makes absolutely no sense to our residents. They don't recognise Western Dunbartonshire as a place that they live, they recognise 1 or 2 streets, a very small neighbourhood as a place that they live, and we needed to start to flip our conversations to talk about communities that people recognised. We also were very clear that we wanted to align our resources more to focus on outcomes and place, and that setting a single context for that was a really simple way to think about resource alignment. I'm sure everyone in the room is very familiar with consultation fatigue and the real challenge we have, so either We host public events, we ask people to come and talk to us, and the same 5 or 6 people turn up to every single event, or people stop coming because they've told us the same things over a number of events over a number of years and they've not seen anything happen, so they're sick of telling us. And I guess the key question, why wouldn't we integrate? It's the sensible way to do things, it's the people-focused way to do things. It makes life easier for all of the officers who are trying to deliver services, and it certainly makes life better for our residents. In terms of what we've managed to do to date, we adopted our plan for place in 2017. It's a 10-year plan for the outcomes that we want to see improved for the population. We've had a real commitment through our elected members, our senior officers and all of our partners to this alignment and to the integration of planning as place focused with outcomes coming after place. And we wanted to start thinking about how we influence place-based activity at a local level, and I'm going to hand over to Antony, who's going to talk a bit more about that.
So, as Amanda has said, I'm Antony, the team leader for Forward Planning West Dunbartonshire, responsible for the local development plan. As Amanda said, the plan for place sets the spatial planning context for what my team does. It sets the spatial planning context for planning in West Dunbartonshire. The Local Development Plan 2, like North Ayrshire, fully supports the delivery of that plan. It also has a strategic focus on places. For me, planning is about benefit for the community. It's about creating places for people, spaces for investment and destinations for people to enjoy. It's about creating livable and walkable neighbourhoods. So we have a clear brand that we use, which is called Your Place, Your Plan. That's how we, as a community planning partnership, engage as communities and to talk about their place. And we do everything on a place-based consultation. Also giving a plug to Irene, as you can see, she has trained the whole community planning partnership in West Dunbartonshire. There's 3 pictures just to prove that she did. It was everybody got trained on how to do the place standard ourselves. So we deliver place standard training to our communities ourselves. The plan for place itself is a live document. It can be updated frequently, and there's continuing and ongoing engagement with our communities. The idea behind this is to bring all spaces, all places and all communities together to inform investments based on what they want for their place. It is a fully participative process and we're just starting the start of it. Where we're now, Local Development Plan 2 proposed plan fully embeds LDP. Its purpose is about creating places for people, it's about green infrastructure first, and it's also about increasing well-being and longevity. So it creates places that our people want to walk around and force them to interact. It also has a benchmarking communities in place. It sets the principle for how communities can have more power and more say when developers come to talk to them, but also how much they want in their own community to be taken forward in a plan. We tried and piloted one of this approach through Clydebank Can, which was focusing on the canal and how much we could make more use of the canal for our communities in that area. It's undertaken with Kevin Murray, Associates facilitating it, but our teams, the communities team, which Elaine's responsible for, and my team and the rest of the planning partners were fully involved in it. This set the precedent for how we take forward locality place plans and neighbourhood planning, which Elaine will speak to later. Locality place plans. This is our approach of how we think we should do things. We are going to fully embed place into our localities. It will be more, I wouldn't say planning orientated because that will scare people, but it will be more neighbourhood centric approach. It's about collaboration with our communities. It's about delivering for them. As Amanda said, every community has told us things over and over and over again. They see nothing. This approach is about actually delivering for them, and delivering in these locality place plans will be fully linked to the action programme and the plan, and we'll go forward to participating in budgeting. So our locality place plans, they'll be built up for small scale grassroots neighbourhood plans. It's really going back to the local level. Once these are built up, they will be built up into a locality place plan level, which then will become part of the LDP. It will be statutory guidance with LDP, and it gives communities power in the say of the development of their place, and developers have to actually say why they have or have not agreed with it. If they don't, it's against the policy, but there are certain exemptions to get through. So I'm going to hand over to Elaine to talk about neighbourhood planning and our approach. Yes, you do.
Hi, so my role as a communities manager is to empower communities, to promote personal and community resilience. And as we've already heard today from Irene and others from Morna, all our communities are so varied and inequalities already exist. So this means that some of our communities will be better placed to take advantage of the opportunities offered by Antony's team, or those opportunities to participate actively in the planning process. So there will be those communities that can and that already do utilise the place standard, for example, but there are other communities that face issues of multiple deprivation, and those communities participate less, both in planning but also through the use of the Community Empowerment Act. So in order to challenge this inequality and prevent it from worsening even further, we need to target our resources to those neighbourhoods that are in need of it most. Yeah, that's it. So the Your Community Initiative, Amanda mentioned it earlier, it's been on the go for a few years now, but that in itself responds to and reflects different issues that arise, and it has to respond to this requirement to address those communities most in need. So now we are actually taking a neighbourhood-based approach. So within Western Dunbartonshire, my team are working specifically into local areas. That's not to the exclusion of the rest of Western Dunbartonshire. Certainly if communities come forward, we'll work with them, but we're focusing on 2 areas that suffer from multiple deprivation. And this approach gives us an opportunity to go into these neighbourhoods, and my team goes in there and we spend time and we try to identify the local positive people, we like to call them, or community anchors, those can-do people that will engage with us and want to do more. And the longer we spend in those communities, building relationships, gaining some trust, the more people talk to us. And as time goes on, we'll have positive discussions about the positive things in their communities themselves, and also the areas they'd like to see improvements. And at that stage, we will then work with Antony's team, who will come in and support us through the use of the place standard tool. And that allows those local people, many of whom we've never engaged with before, and we're hoping that it's not just those well-kept faces that always turn up, but then those local people start to develop their own ambitions for their neighbourhood plans. And this in itself will lead to very different neighbourhood plans, because all our communities are so different. But we hope that there will be key themes that emerge. Some of them may be short-term goals, short-term projects that the council and the communities can tackle themselves so that they can start to see improvements, and others will be longer-term ambitions, but essentially they will be neighbourhood-led. And we obviously have to measure the success. And as I said, the success will vary depending on our communities. Some of our communities are much harder to work in than others, as I'm sure you can imagine. But within the framework, everybody in the team is clear about the overall objectives and the aims that we're working to. And the team have developed over the summer months a framework within which we'll all work. And that is just a framework. That'll change, the timescales will change, the milestones will change, but essentially we're all working to the same goal. And we'll encourage all our residents to participate in participation surveys, and they may be online, they may be through conversation, they may be prompted, but they'll start at the very beginning, they'll continue, and then we'll monitor it again at the end. We'll also encourage officers and citizens to take evidence, gather evidence about the positives and negatives, those areas they want to improve in their local area. In the measuring success, what success looks like for us and what it looks like for our individual neighbourhoods might be quite different, and you're yet to establish what those success factors will be for each community. But for us, the process of engagement is a benefit in itself. It allows people to develop skills. Even working with the place standard and developing neighbourhood plans is a fantastic opportunity for people, and that shouldn't be overlooked. But the other benefits are so important. The benefits of engagement and activity allow us to work with people to develop their capacity, their confidence, various different skills. And over time, as these communities see these improvements materialising, they'll also understand the greater influence that they can have on shaping their communities. Pride will develop, a sense of community will develop, and people will want to do more for themselves and become more resilient, and that's our ultimate goal. And it's been mentioned before about our ageing population, and the issue of social isolation is one that we're all trying to target. But all of this activity, all of this engagement and empowerment has real health and mental health benefits that cannot be overlooked. And as we build more resilient communities, we want to encourage our local residents to consider the care and the interest they have in their own homes and to extend that to their street and wider still to their community. And so as officers, we'll work to support active, empowered and informed communities to help them understand the importance of place, but also the influence they can have on their own place.
Well, as everything, there's got to be lessons learned. And trying to combine two pieces of legislation and an emerging legislation, don't underestimate the difficulties of achieving that, especially when we don't know what it's going to look like in terms of the planning bill. Also, defining roles and common understanding is critical. Explaining what people actually do within the teams, what they can do, and how they can support each other is fundamental to any approach to building neighbourhoods that work for communities, and also to align teams together and share a common goal and sharing a common belief and passion for actually delivering place for our communities and neighbourhoods they are proud of. Agreed outcomes for activity, also essential. Having a clear process and a clear theory of how it will work. As Elaine said, we're trialling this, and this was based out of the Clydebank Can and the previous ones we've done. The team have taken everything that they've learned and now they're trialling their own approach, which is like a hypothesis. It will test over time. And the alignment of timescales, very aspirational in West Dunbartonshire. But our end goal is to have everything that we do, all our budgets, all our resources, delivered around place and creating neighbourhoods that communities are proud of and want to actually live in and developers want to build in. Therefore, going back to my point, that planning is for the benefit of the community, and it doesn't matter if that's community planning, physical planning, or ad hoc planning. Thank you. That's our details there from the structures.